Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Welcome back to the 2024 Netrunner World Championships right here in scenic San Francisco. My name is Cranked, pronouns he, him.
I'm Juniper, she, her.
And we're about to get underway with the top 16 double elimination bracket. Really exciting stuff. We finally narrowed down the field of competitors to the top 16. A lot of Netrunners, 203 of them, I believe, showed up here in San Francisco, competed their hearts out, and we're now down to the top 16. June, who are you excited to see first?
I'm really excited to see Tuno as a team member of QTM. I have a little badge right here. I'm really excited to hopefully see what they can do. But I think we're ready to go to announcements right now. So
take it over, Chewy Sengren. Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. I want to do a little bit of a thank you speech to so many people who've made this happen. I want to start actually by thanking all of you for coming out once again. This has been such an amazing event to be part of. So thank you, everyone, for making it out here. I hope you've had a great time. This list of thank yous is necessarily going to be somewhat incomplete and partial, but I just want to make sure that people here who have done so much work that's less visible than me being up on a stage get their due. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to start first with thanking my wife, who has tolerated me spending an obscene amount of hours on making worlds happen. And I also hope that everyone is very thankful to their partners and significant others and all of their extended networks who are supporting them doing this amazing thing of giving up a whole weekend and more. I want to call out first Brian here, who did the venue scouting in SF, went way above and beyond my initial request, so thank you. I want to shout out Nick. Genuinely, I don't think there would be almost anything in this room if Nick was not on the team. Nick has been just killing it in organized play and Worlds this year. I want to shout out John over in the merch booth. John basically showed up when I asked him and just immediately started solving a million problems. So thank you. And the Artist Colony board has been, or like shop has been going amazingly and through some pretty astounding technical difficulties. So, where is James? Is James back yet? Yes. Okay, fantastic. James has been the other right-hand man within OP, doing so much of the planning work, figuring out volunteer schedules. Again, this is true of so many people. Worlds would not be possible without him. So I also want to shout out Kelly, who did all of these visual banners, artwork, and coordinating design across a whole bunch of different people. So I want to make sure they get a shout out. I want to shout out Kato and Jason, who both have been doing a ton of work to make the stream sing from a production side. They've put in some extremely long hours and dealt with me more than anyone should have to. I also want to give Junipertheory a shout out for being the stream lead and coordinating so much of the stuff this year. The HQ staff this year has been simply phenomenal. So thank you to Ariel, Grant, Suzanne, Ryan, Aaron, Spooky Dana, and Stweed. Genuinely, this whole event is like, they have solved so many invisible problems and are like a huge part of why this has gone so smoothly. Judges have been killing it all weekend. Again, all these teams are fantastic. So I want to say thanks to Swan, Augustus, Cobra Bubbles, Neural Shock, Jonald, Solomir, Cephalopod Wizard, RPT, and Zansonic. I want to give out shouts to the Artist Colony. Genuinely, some of the busiest I think I've seen any people at various times throughout the weekend. Amanda, Atienne, Mean Lady, and Spencer have done a fantastic job there. I want to give out a shout out to the comms team, Eric Hayden, Andrej, Cranked, Neuropanzer, and Orbital Tangent. I want to give thanks to AMS, who has been holding out the front door the basically entire weekend. AMS loves company and has Worlds 2024 pins if you haven't picked them up, so please don't hesitate to swing by and say hello. And I also want to shout out Drew, who has been doing logistics for us at the last second, almost unasked, just kind of showed up and said, start giving me things. And has been running the Learn to Play events in the background. I also want to say there are so many people in NSG I did not just call out, but have helped in this event in so many large and small ways. So a deep thank you to everyone in NSG who has supported. There are too many of you to list, but I sincerely say thank you for all of the effort you've put into this event as well. I called them out earlier, but I want to do one more read of the top 16 as a congratulations. So for Swiss, 16th in Swiss was Tuno on PE and ESSA. 15th was Ruben Peters on Ag Infusion and LAT. 14th was CTZ on RP and LAT. Reality Plus and LAT. 13 was The King on Ag Infusion and Hoshiko. 12 was Passive Molt on Reality Plus and Hoshiko. 11th, we thought he was gone, but Timmy Wong is back with Ag Infusion and Ayla. Sokka is in 10th with Built to Last and LAT. In 9th, we have Tak on ASA and LAT. In 8th in Swiss, we have Seb K with ASA and Arasana. In 7th, we've got Santa on Ag Infusion and Freedom. In 6th, we've got Nykride on ASA and Sable. In 5th, we have Seachling with ASA and LAT. We have Deer in 4th on PE and LAT. We have Aruzan on Reality Plus and Arasana in 3rd. We've got Rotom Appliance at number 2 on Precision Design and LAT. And then as King of Swiss, we have Jai on ASA Group and LAT. I'm going to ask the top 16 to make their way over to their assigned tables so that we can do side selection and start the top cut imminently. For people that placed in the top 32, please come by the front desk and we will prize you out for your additional prizes. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been truly a blast, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Welcome back to the Netrunner Worlds 2024 World Championship. It's been a long day. It's been a long weekend, and we're getting to the top 16 cut. My name is Andrej from the Metropolitan Grid. I go by he, him.
I'm Juniper, she, her. I'm so excited for this.
It is really exciting. We had 203 players show up. We're down to just 16. 51 players returned to the start of today, playing 3 more rounds of single-sided Swiss, and we're starting in 16 players only left. This is double elimination.
Yep. So they get 2 chances. It looks like we're ready to go. Let's just get right to
dive right in. These are players you probably know the names of. On the left, that is Tuno. It's playing an ESSA deck. It's known to play a lot of ESSA, a lot of aggression. We have that sabotage. We're going to see some pressure on the right. This is the top of a Swiss. This Jai undefeated going to this. So how it works in double-sided Swiss, or sorry, double elimination, is that the first seed plays the 16th seed, the second for the 15th, and so on and so forth. And specifically, only in this round, the higher seed gets to choose which side of the matchup. And Jai, looking at the deck list, this is now open deck list Netrunner, decided to want to play the ASA group into Tuno's ESSA.
Right. Well, previously it was all decided for you, and no one actually knew what was in your other opponent's deck list beforehand. Maybe you could get some hints or something, but it did mean if you went up against, say, as we were saying, we would see like a build to last, be like, what exactly is this trying to do? What's the strategy here? Today, you know exactly what your opponent's cards are, and if you're smart, you can figure out exactly what their strategy is.
And these are kind of known quantities. Both these players are known for playing these archetypes. Jai is playing ASA group as he's brought through the whole continental season. This list is only slightly different than what you might have expected. We're looking at 2 Biotic Labors, influence spent on powers that be, of course, the Spin Doctors, Tattoo Bolas, a Chrysium grid, but Holoman is the big way that we can score out aggressively agendas, whether it's never advancing a 5-3 and getting a tempo swing back on the table with the ASA group ability and powers that be. This can snowball if the board is not challenged and those assets don't come down.
It wants to put down a lot of cards. It wants to score them fast. It just wants to out-tempo the opponent as fast as possible. The ASA list, meanwhile, we've got, don't try to see if there's any fun stuff.
This is the chippy one. I've been talking to Tuno. Tuno's been speaking specifically about Palangi being in this deck.
Palangi being in the deck, which is a really, really interesting include. There's also 2 simul chips. It's exactly the sort of thing I like to put in a deck like this. Just add simul chips and then add funny programs to do stuff with. Obviously some Nukas just for card draw. 2 Ashen Epilogues, which implies assuming that you're going to go through your deck, potentially.
Yeah, we have, in terms of recursion, labor rights, so we lose some of the cards, we can do a reset. Now, Jai starting with that ASA install on the remote server, protecting HQ. You have to watch out for the Chastushka. And Tuno starts up with the Simul chip into the Marrow. There's only a 2 of in this list, this Marrow. Getting that down, giving you the hand size, and to get that ongoing win-scored ability is definitely going to help. Banhar is going to be protected from damage, and Banhar is just so good in this matchup because you're going to see a lot of these 1-ice remote servers. Jai is going to present horizontal problems, and while Banhar can tackle one of those really well every turn, it's up to Tuno to figure out really cleverly where to put that pressure.
Getting that Banhar down, getting that Marrow down early is also really good because it's going to trigger on any potential agenda scores. Well, it's not a ton of stuff. That could be 4 or 5, 6 different sabotages per game.
Now, the Nico start in the remote server, you're expecting Rashida as the most explosive start, but Nico, no slash at all, already being credited positive on the turn as res. If that stays on the table, we'll see if Tuno wants to pressure that with the Banhar, but otherwise that's 6 credits and a card draw coming on the next 2 turns.
It's definitely a relief to see it instead of the Rashida, because the Rashida is such a big tempo thing, and having the Banhar in your first hand, you know that you can't actually get into a server on that turn. You can do it next turn, but not immediately. So being able to see, okay, I don't have to immediately pressure it. I have a turn to potentially try and take it down if I want.
A lot of the ASA group players are playing something that is slightly akin to a shell game. The understanding is Banhar is really good at dealing with only 1 ice. We'll probably see Jai here build another remote server, even put an uniced thing on the table, and just say it takes time, it takes effort to check all this sort of stuff. It's hard to get 2 ice res. Some of the ice is expensive. We're looking at, I think, 2 brawn. Ablative barriers are not something you're excited to res pre that threat 3, which is coming up relatively fast if one good Chestushka can hit through and get some cards thrown into archives. But just 2 on the table, no ace of this turn.
It should be noted the ice in Jai's deck, some of it is there's a few things that are 1 subroutine, a few things that are 2, and then there's a few things that are 3 subroutines. So making a run, you have to have at least 3 credits in hand with the Banhar. Otherwise, you could run into an MIC or something. All 3 of those subroutines turn into take 1 net damage that kills you instantly. So Tuno can't safely run unless it has at least 3 cards in hand.
Dr. Nuka starting with some card draw, emptying that really quickly, just getting that hand size. Again, we have on, I believe it's 7 hand size after taking the core damage from the Marrow. A Banhar token staying on the card, not putting that to work, saying that Nico campaign, that HQ pressure is not going to be converting this turn. One thing I'm always concerned when you're playing this sort of sabotage deck is, are any of these uniced cards spin doctors? Because you often don't want to sabotage into a spin doctor that gives Jai control to either fix a bad hand or just go off the top of the deck and understand that you can put those cards back. So we'll see if Tuno is able to pressure these, or if it just wants to set up for getting that Chestushka, which can be kind of guaranteed on HQ if Jai doesn't find the one of Crisium Grid or gets a second ice on HQ.
I was wondering, because there's, okay, so moshing 3 cards away to draw 3 more and gain 3 credits. A second Bonkar makes sense. A Dirty Laundry and another Nuka. I mean, you're going to draw 4 cards off the Nuka. Is Nuka 4 or 6?
Nuka can be 6 over
Nuka
3
6,
clicks.
So yeah, 6 cards off of Nuka. Getting 3 cards, that's pretty good value.
Just Rashid on the table, Jai smiles. A cheeky play for sure.
Oh.
Going to feel good, and that might insinuate that he doesn't have any ice in hand, and Rashid is definitely going to likely going to fix that. These decks are generally around 14 to 15 ice. You need a good ratio of things that go in servers and in front of servers often to ensure that you're getting that ace installed the way you want to. Again, the big powerful card here is fully operational. A 3 of course, in this deck that says draw cards or gain credits, and it repeats as a new choice for every server you have that's iced with something in it. So we're going to see that play map. We're going to cover all those nice signatures. Those were all signed today, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to lose some of those pretty quickly with some ice and some installs.
The naked Rashida has to feel so bad, though, because you think, I could have run that, I could have taken care of that.
Now, Tuna's list, I don't believe, has any support for trashing assets, whether it's a Bones or a Scrubber or an Imp. It's just going to be credits.
It does have 2 pinhole threadings, which can potentially take out
a
Hollow Man.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely matters in this matchup. Tuno has to really carefully consider where to use the pinhole threadings. Like that server right there, putting a pinhole threading to get rid of that's a Hollow Man in there could be really useful. It could also be you pinhole threading, you see an agenda, you realize you can't get in and you're in trouble.
The double ice is the respect you need for Banhar here. And Jai might need to actually just protect a Spin Doctor on the table. That other card that wasn't res, there are a couple options here. Whether it is just a Powers That Be sitting on the table waiting for an agenda, but Tuno marking that HQ with the Banhar.
Are we going to see a Chestushka?
There should be no ice that's going to stop runs here. We're first checking that. See if it's a
check for a spin.
Spin Doctor respect. Jai looking at hand kind of tells you it might just be a spin here. Now you want to get that out of the way before you go for the Chestushka. The 3 Spin Doctors in the deck are incredibly important.
It is. It's rough to have that Spin Doctor so early because there's so few cards in archives right now. And Ace is just going to keep putting cards in archives. You really want to be able to shuffle stuff back in.
Now, a really big wrinkle with a lot of the modern HB decks is often they're okay with allowing the runner to trash the Spin Doctor on the basis that the deck has drafters and ablative barriers. And so having the ability at instant speed to pull it back, and there you say, Jai says, I know I can shuffle some cards back into R&D, but now for the rest of the game, especially once we get to threat 3, sometimes Essa sends at HQ, you res an ablative, the Spin Doctor comes back. Those are the big plays that Tuno needs to be dancing around.
That does also mean that, Ghost Tongue. Interesting. Okay.
Econ Engine, here we're going to get a Sabotage. Tuno doing its work, getting that Spin Doctor down to make sure that Jai has to make some hard decisions here. Again, Essa, the first time that you take core damage, you get to draw a card to replace that card you lose and cause Sabotage too. For those who are not too familiar with the Boreal cycle, Buzzsaw, what's that going to get through in the deck? I'm not sure if we're actually on any magnets. It's probably just MICs.
And Gatekeeper, but Gatekeeper's miserable to break with a Buzzsaw. Well, the first
yeah, you do it with your face for the first one. The second one will gladly pay 1. But now, speaking of pay one less with the Ghost Time. We're going to see a lot of these events be so much cheaper. We saw Dirty Laundry leave with unchecked remote servers, but the economy can come pretty quickly here.
It is interesting. Normally, I'd be really worried about seeing the Buzzsaw in archives as Asa, because so often if you lose the breakers to damage or something, you don't really have, you're not running that many breakers. You're running more things to go fast. But the simulchips and the Pelongi mean it can just be gotten back really fast, really easily, potentially.
I think that was 2 off the top rope. Jai, just getting them off of R&D at Raindrops, a nice way to get cards back here.
With the Bonkar, so that's going to deal a bunch of net damage, but gain credits and probably draw you a lot of cards from this.
I'd be surprised if Jai goes for a res here. Good. We're just going to get an access again. It's really tricky for Raindrops. We're just replacing that cards when it comes to Banhar, but we haven't seen Steel Skins or Strike Funds, so single access, finding a wage workers, 4 trash costs. Looks like that's going to stay. We're going to get 3 back from what is the free Raindrops.
This does also mean you now could Chestushka.
Yep, for sure. Jai might look for the second ice.
You do still have the Oh.
We're drawing 5 cards start a turn. Rashida into Nico into mandatory draw. Now, Jai doesn't have any sort of click compression. We've seen 1 Wage Workers, so if you do that quad install turn, you can actually install 5 cards, if I'm not mistaken, with Asa Group to really get the cards on the table. Understanding, too, you can get 2 ice in a single Asa Group install or an upgrade into an ice. A Chrysium on HQ for Jai would be fantastic here. Understanding there's actually no successful run triggers that you're really threatening on R&D. There's not a finality list, which is often a one of in these ESA decks, but Tuno's pressure is just the sabotage, running their remote servers, and of course, what can be in a game easily up to 7 to 8 Chestushkas if things get out of hand.
We've seen 1 Spin Doctor go down. Curious what we'll see. Obviously, Jai would love to see fully up. Oh, 3 cards in 1 server.
I think he might just be planning. I think he's trying to figure out what he needs. We see in hand a Hollowman. You can do it. Like Asa does do that for sure, the double install. We're looking at Mana Garnts 2S for defensive upgrades. Otherwise, it's like Tranquilities. We do have a Mavirus. I'm not sure if that's going to really matter. It can just interact with the one singleton Voluptuous. Palangi could be cool. That's a really cool thing. You can always simul-chip back in response if you understand the paid ability triggers, which both these players definitely do. Jai's trying to plan out this turn here. Again, you love a YDL, but that's definitely not the sort of decks we're looking at here. And Jai figuring out what cards that he wants to discard. Again, you need to start pushing forward. You want to get to threat 3. There's this clock in the game. Firstly, a Blade of, once that's online, the game is totally different with 3 recursion cards for the Spin Doctor, but also this is a Begamot list. And if your most taxing barriers are Brawn, it's only a matter of time before that giant cat is ripping through those Brawns for 1 credit.
Yep, and with a Palangi, it can potentially be ripping through anything else. You could rip through a Gatekeeper, you could go through anything with that.
So you have to push forward, and with Hollowman, we have the credits, a very good credit total, I think around 19, if I'm not mistaken. You're spending about 8.
So 2 cards in the double iced server. That's the first click.
You might see
click.
Hollowman
Playing and rezzing a Wage Workers.
We're going to go for that quad, or actually maybe even 5 installs. Wage Workers.
We'll see 1 more install.
Does see there's
another card on HQ. Obviously worried about that Chestushka. And then now you get a 4th action because of that. A 3rd card in there.
So we're assuming Managarm Tranquility is going to be unique. Agenda into Hollowman is actually very likely. Jai has the funds. And it's up to Tuno to force these ice reses, because the money can go quickly. You have to res 2 ice on the remote server to keep Tuno out unless the Managarm can hold. And on 3 credits Managarm, you only have 1 good way to interact with it, which is the double click. We're going to start there.
Mystic Mamie, a little bit of econ.
Wizard She's here, going to get in credit a turn 4 events on Ghost Tongue. That's a lot of value. Running Hot to start.
Running Hot, ooh, that's a lot of clicks.
Such a fun card. We're talking about like clicking into Managarm. Now you have extra clicks if you do want to do that. This gives you more of a turn.
Another Mara, definitely what you want to see.
A perfect hit. Jai has to decide here. It is Sabotage 2 once per turn. Looks like that was 1 from hand, 1 from the top rope. Carefully, you don't see too many. Again, if you're not familiar with Sabotage, this was from the Borealis cycle. Really fun mechanic. And you have to decide where the cards come from. You do HQ first before you look at any of the cards from R&D. So Jai has to make the decisions before seeing the unknowns.
All right, let's see. In archives, are we going to see any agendas?
Running Archives here, Tuno.
5 face-down cards. What do we get?
Nothing.
No. Oh, no, wait, there's 1.
We have 1.
We have 1.
It's a black and white. Is it? It's an Aqua. Tuno has the clicks and the credits. That's 3 points
3
up.
points.
Now, the deck only has 2 of these Iquas, if I'm not mistaken. That's very important because
so
Jai
good
wants
to
to score
see.
3 agendas. But this is a huge difference. We're now on threat 3, which means every single ablative, which there are 3 in these lists, can bring back Spin Doctors at instant speed installed into different servers.
Now running on that server.
Tuno had to ask for extra click counters, understanding that it's going to be playing some running hots, and I believe we have the extra click counters to sate those needs. Remote server on a healthy 16 credits. Understanding this first ice, its subroutines are just going to say net damage. And there's the first ablative.
There's the ablative.
This allows you to install something from HQ or archives into a different or in front of a different remote server. It cannot be an agenda.
How many actions does Tuno have left? How many actions does it have left at this point?
Probably 3. I think 3, because 1 came from the Aqua. I think we're going to see with the click trackers.
Okay, 2 clicks remaining.
Just 2.
So it can go trash the Rashida, although it will take... Oh, no, because you can put the ice in front.
Yeah, A-Sub installs once per turn. That includes the runner's turn. It's going to be only 1 net damage losing. Again, not a card you really need in this matchup.
Now has to consider very carefully, because it doesn't want to force the next res. Because depending on what that is... Ooh, a drafter. That does let you in, though.
Yes, you can overinstall with a Spin Doctor to save the agenda. So it gets trashed with an overinstall, and then you can save it. We have a Managarm, we're assuming their remote server, and Tuno exactly has 2 clicks left. So it can click through the Managarm. So Jai has a hard decision here.
No. if it clicks through the Managarm, it can't go run archives or try and get if there was an agenda over-installed in there.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could shuffle it back with Spin Doctor, but it does mean you lose all remaining clicks on your turn.
Yeah, Jai is thinking, I think if you see the overinstall with the Spin Doctor, Tuno probably just walks away, runs archives, and forces the spin. But on no credits, can't even get in to trash anything. We've seen 2 Rashidas so far. In fact, one of them's returned to the table. So Jai can spend a fair few credits here and be pretty comfortable getting that Rashida 3 cards, 3 credits back. And keeping cards in hand is so important. This deck is not on legwork. Like a lot of HQ pressure alongside. A lot of corporations throw out their worst cards in hand. So getting some HQ multi-X can be pretty important. Looks like it is a Spin Doctor.
A spin.
So 1 card's added to hand, 1 card's installed on the table, both from HQ or archives.
Is it being installed in the server, or is it just being installed in general?
It looks like Nico might go back to HQ.
Nico's going back to HQ.
And we'll see the spin
is
on top.
going to over-install on something, so that must be an agenda. So does Tuno continue? I assume Tuno continues to see the Skunk Works, let it get res.
You force the res at a minimum, I reckon. Now Drafter has fired.
Oh, what?
Wait. This
Hold
is
on.
a judge call. Jai just trashed the wrong card on the overinstall. That was meant to get the Vitruvius into the bin. So we're going to call a judge here. Not something you're excited to run into. Again, of course, you can't have an agenda and an asset in the same server. Obviously, both players know this. The overinstall here was to get that Vitruvius into the bin because that topmost card is a Spin Doctor.
I think this is just something they can take back because the only information's been revealed to Tuno, and that's not a disadvantage. But we'll see what the judge says.
A legal board state, a turn, a couple actions, some planning, that can be a problem. But of course, this is up to the judges. This is it's a world. It's a competitive
Yeah, it is
event.
a competitive. It could go. They could make a decision that way.
We'll see how this goes. So it looks like we might have to call this through. Oh, definitely not excited to see that here in our first round. Again, this is double elimination, so
either way, they will get another chance.
Yes, for sure.
That has to hurt.
These are 2 definite favorites coming into the 2024 World Championship, understanding that that is a Spin Doctor on top of an upgrade on top of an agenda here. I wonder what hit the bin. Oh, Jai, definitely not feeling great about this, but the judges will sort this out. Oh man, that server. It is what it is. That server too. Like, talk about the ice that doesn't end the run. That had to be exactly like the drafters. Everything else stops the run there. Having exactly the draft into ablative is the one thing that Tuno can get into. Now there's repercussions. Obviously, cards move around, but that was the server that could be assailed here. Jai's not drawing the ice in the order that I think he wants.
Right, but Jai might have been thinking, well, I can put the Spin Doctor down. I can do this. What are as someone who's more familiar with this, what are the options for a judge here? Like, what happens in this sort of scenario?
I don't know. Worlds obviously will be held to a different standard, competitive and casual events. I generally do more judging for casual events in which, making the game go on and making everyone, learn the rules together. Yeah. This is obviously a bit different when it comes to rewinding board state. And you try not to do this, but
so
I don't know.
Obviously in this scenario, there's 2 assets installed in that server.
An agenda and an asset, right?
An agenda and an asset, there's an agenda and an asset, which isn't legal. And that was there. In theory, if Tuno had jacked out, it would have stayed like that.
That's a
which
problem.
would be a serious problem.
Yeah.
Now, because it went in and saw the server, it might be able to back it up as this was going to happen. You see, we know what's going on, but I don't know. The judge could say, this is an illegal board state. This is not like a thing that can happen. This has to be a game loss.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want to win a game based on a game loss because of a mistake like that in Worlds, which would be so rough, but we'll see.
What's interesting is today, Jai, this is his first game of Netrunner.
Yeah.
There was 3 rounds. Tuno is battling it out, making sure it makes a bracket on 16th on strength of schedule. Obviously, Tuno is a fantastic player, but some really, really tough rounds today. Basically, you have to win all of them in a row. Jai, this is his first game of Netrunner today. So sometimes these things obviously happen. Of course they do, but we'll see exactly what the judges call out here. Yeah. From this point forward, say that this does get resolved in a way that the game can continue. We're going to see that Vitruvius in the bin, and the Spin Doctor will be rezzed, and we'll force a shovel back in. And if that is the remote server, that's actually tricky for Tuno to deal with.
Yeah.
We're not looking at any killers in the list. It's simply a Buzzsaw and the Begamot, 1 Botulus, and then the Plongi in other ways with the Simon chip to trick through that remote server. So Jai actually has something, as much as that ice is relatively cheap, that Tuno is going to have to put the pressure on central servers and maybe try and disrupt things, because if you can just chain, Holloman, which might actually still be in that server over and over again.
And the thing is, because there is the cheap ice there, Jai hasn't spent a ton of money. So
Not
Jai
yet.
has the money to res multiple ice on HQ.
Yes.
If Jai had pulled up, say, a Brawn or something, then Jai would be down 3 more credits, and Tuno could potentially say, okay, I want to push a little bit harder on this.
Yeah, we haven't seen any fully ops yet. That's going to be pretty explosive. We do know there's a Rashida on the table if that goes through, which is quite great. I think both players laughing. Definitely being on cameras trying to sit through this. Yeah, we might just jump to the bracket here
Let's
for a
take look at the
while
bracket
for this
real
to be
quick
sorted out.
while we figure this out.
Oh, man, the top 16 cut was so wild. So to understand here how the bracket works, I'm going to say this confidently. The top player is the player in the higher seed.
Yes.
So what happens at the beginning of this round? It's like a really important decision. You sit down across from your opponent, you get to see both their deck lists, and you decide which side you want to play right now. And of course, as the bracket works, you basically continue to play Netrunner until you take 2 losses across the day. And once that happens, that's the end of the Worlds 2024 run.
That does mean that when we get to finals, if the lower tier bracket from losers comes back and wins, they then have to fight again and play a second time and win twice in a row.
And you always get those narratives where like, oh, you knocked me down, I'm coming back, I have to reset the bracket. It is a lot of fun.
It's so rough, but it's also very, very cool to see it happen.
Now, a really cool thing here, 4 of these names here are players from this local San Francisco type area, and specifically they're in a testing group that they've called the Unnamed West Coast Testing Group. And the goal they have today is which of these 4 players ends in the highest position, which, mind you, might just be that World Championship title, today gets to name the group.
Okay, looks like the judge is making a decision here. All right, it looks like we are going to back it up. We are going to say...
This is a good rewind. It looks like we're able to
looks like we
play this
are
on.
doing a rewind.
I believe Jeff there, head of the organized play policy, definitely off camera, people are making a tough decision on how they want to resolve that. I have no doubt at a minimum, Jai is going to get some sort of warning to be careful about these sort of interactions. We're very fortunate, again, as you said, imagine you jack out there for some reason. That is a total mess to fix. But we are going to repair it. Game is going to continue. We're not resing the Managarm, showing the 3 cards. Not resing the Managarm there. Very interesting. Now, Tuno won't double-click, but Tuno also can't trash, so it's just information. All those cards are staying on the table. We know the Vitruvius in archives. I'm so glad this is not how round 1
I'm so glad we actually get to see the rest of the game.
We're in for a game. Okay.
I hope, not to show favorites, but I do hope Tuno could win this. If Tuno wins this in on sheer strength, that would be fun to see. I wonder if Tuno runs archives now just to force the Spin Doctor shuffle.
Yeah. You have time to do it. You still have 1 click left here.
It feels like it that way you just get it out of the way. There we go.
Great.
So that's going to force the Spin Doctor to be rezzed and removed from the game.
Jeff being very careful against the right one this time. Draw 2. And I'm glad he's laughing again. After this sort of mistake, you might be shaken, you know, playing on camera, top of Swizz. So I'm glad, we got to get those nerves out here at the top. Looks like it's going back in. That was a Hagen, if I'm not mistaken, and almost definitely the face down for Vitruvius is going back into the deck. So
that's rough to see. That's rough to see as Tuno. But you do know now that both Spin Doctors are removed. So at this point, honestly...
just one, right? The first one, because now it's actually removed.
Right, the first one got removed. But it is a Spin Doctor removed for the game, which is what you want to see as what do you want to see as Asa. Asa, you can just keep going for sabotage and potentially win off that. That's one of the things I really love about the identity, is that one of my favorite things about Netrunner is that there's always a chance that you just touch Central and you see an agenda, and you touch an agenda and you win. And there's really a lot of that. You do a sabotage and sometimes you just win based off that.
This is going to be another explosive turn. This is Rashida into Spin Doctor to mandatory. It's another like +5 card turn that we're starting. Now, Jai with the Wage Workers can probably use that many cards. If the operation show up, Biotic Labor, stuff like that. Biotic Labor into Wage Workers. You actually can do a lot of work. You can score a 4-2 from hand, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see how Jai wants to use that.
We do know that there's a Hollow Man still installed.
Yep.
So
you can even fast advance a Vitruvius. It's prohibitively expensive, but it is a possibility. But Jai needs to figure out how to get out of here. A fully op might come this turn just for credits. A very cool thing about a lot of these fully op decks is Asa Group, by the end of the game, it might still only be 10 turns. You might only have 11 cards left in R&D. And against Sabotage, that can be quite difficult potentially. So Jai has to make sure that he's been drawing a lot. Like R&D is probably only 20, 22 cards left at this point. We've seen 5-card draw, 5-card draw, and Tuno doesn't mind that. Again, it's the alternate win condition you barely see, but the Corporation fails to ever draw a card. That's a game loss for the Corporation. Planning the turn, again, cards on the table. Those are not installs on top of the Wage Workers. Jai just, of course, planning the turn like you'd expect.
Tuno, it's also on 0 credits right now, so it needs a way to get back up on credits. It can't install a Begemot. It can't install any sort of Icebreaker.
It doesn't have Sure Gamble, so our big burst back there with Mystic Miami and, of course, the Ghost Tongue. We've seen one Dirty Laundry hit the bin.
Dirty Laundry, Raindrops Cut Stone, both can give you a little bit of money out of nowhere.
Strike funds otherwise are the only burst economy.
Wow. This deck is very low to the ground. Well, Fermenter. There's Fermenter too, which can get you some money. It's not going to be good as fast as you need it to be here, but it can help you get that money.
Now, moshing, another great way to get into. I don't think we've seen a strike fund just yet, so it has the potential to jump up to credits quite
Strike
quickly.
fund also made a lot better by having that Ghost Tongue on the field.
Yep. Might just send it into that remote server. Interesting to find out how Tuno is going to deal with that remote server with just the drafter is relatively tricky. And there we have a card on top of what we know to be a Mana Garm and a Holloman, two very important cards, one for scoring, one for protecting. And Jai is going to get some more cards on the table.
Ice there. Oh, that's so hard to get into.
This forces the Begamut install. Unless you want to Botulus Ablative, you need to get your Fractor down. Icing up R&D, and there's a fully op for last click after Wage Workers. We might just see full money here. So this is a plus, what is it? 8 credits for 1?
That's 8 credits for 1. That's so much money.
That's the first one, and we're expecting, of course, 2 more of it. That is the power card. It came out a fair bit later after Asa Group, but was much enjoyed once the Ashes cycle hit. This card is actually seeing play even in Tuno's list at PE. It's doing some work tonight, that's for sure.
This is so rough to see right now because you have so little money, you have so little options, and the Corp has so much going on.
So now Banner on R&D, poking.
Running R&D, just poking it.
That's the Hagen. There's 2 in this list. That might have been the one that came back here. This is going to be 2 damage. That first
I wonder
subroutine.
if there's a Steel Skin or a Strike Fund in hand.
There's a Strike Fund. Going to gain 2.
Ooh, and there's an Ashen Epilogue. I don't think that matters in this game.
It probably won't.
Yeah, and Ashen Epilogue obviously shuffles your entire deck back in, your entire discard back.
That's
here.
an agenda. That's not only an agenda. That is the agenda.
Oh, gosh.
Tuno on 5 points here after a single access on R&D. Now, not often do you see Essa win off the single accesses, but Tuno here understands, or Jai understands, just one simple sabotage with no Spin Doctor, you take a risk off the top of the deck. That can just be the first round.
Jai could have a Spin Doctor down right now, and Jai does get to see all of the sabotage, see what's in Archives. Right, Tuno running the remote server?
I think we're just making sure. I don't think Tuno has a way into the remote server. The Bladed Barrier and the Banhar is all on the Hagen. So I think Tuno's asking what came into that server potentially at turn. There's 1 new card with the Ace group getting the ice on that 3rd outermost spot unrezzed. But Tuno's seeing 5
Looking
points.
at Archives, trying to see what's in there, trying to figure out what might be in that server by what's already in Archives.
Stealing 1 early, Ikawa stealing the Luminal. I don't think you can ask for better agendas this quickly. Jai still has 7 points, of course, to score out, and likely going to need the last Ikawa in the list.
That's the thing about Asa. You've got this huge machine up against you. You've got this giant bunch of cards, so many ice installs, so many else. And it doesn't matter if you just hit a couple of sabotages, hit R&D, you can just win out of nowhere. It's one of the best identities. I compare it sometimes when I'm explaining Netrunner to people. I'll say, like, this is the burn deck of Netrunner. This is the closest Netrunner's ever had to a literal burn deck. You're throwing cards, you're going as fast as you can. It doesn't matter.
We got a Fermenter down, QTM special. That's going to be getting virus counters. That is econ of this deck. There's 1 virus, but I'm not sure if Jai is going to be purging anytime soon. We're going to see a play here. Let's see if that bottommost remote server is the powers that be. Another anti-destruction cards, gets cards back on the table. We'll see what's in the bin here. Holloman, you can spend 4 credits to put 3 advancements. Nothing's been installed this turn. One of the most powerful cards from the last set.
If this is a Ikawa project, that could be really good here.
Powers that be, res in that remote. We're going to score, gain 7 credits. 4 seems like a lot, but when you get your money back, now you can get an install. Whether there's a Rashida back in the hand, you can install something from HQ or from Archives.
That does sabotage 1 with the Marrow, though.
And Marrow, very notably, has to go after you do the recursion with powers that be because the active player goes first. So you can't just sabotage and then bring an agenda that got trashed. So Double Ice R&D saying, hey, I know there's still a fair few points in here. And while Tuno isn't on finality, just touching a single card any turn is a risk that Jai doesn't want to take.
And also that does mean that there isn't a Spin Doctor installed right now. We've seen everything that's installed, so we know there's no Spin Doctor installed. Putting
an upgrade. Yeah, whether it's a Managarm or a virus. Those are the ones that make the most sense. Crazium Great on R&D, I don't think does anything in the matchup. Again, this is open deck list. I don't believe that Tuno is on a copy of Finality, the one R&D run you might be expecting. But this gets really frightening. Jai needs to keep a full hand because a single sabotage, whether it's... Oh, that was a strike fund that came off the Mystic Miami last turn. That's really cool. Gaining credits. We have a lot of credits on this Mystic Miami for events. But Jai has to be careful. Even sometimes you can overinstall your Ghost Tongue, overinstall your Marrow just to get Sabotage, because this damage is really going to hurt Jai's hands. Now, getting something into remote server, Jai can be on game point next turn. If that is a 5-3 or a 4-2, that shouldn't be a problem. And Powers That Be is going to repair and, in fact, make the board state even stronger.
If Tuno can see a Begemot and a Palangi, if Tuno can see those Palangis, Tuno can potentially get into most servers at this point is the thing.
Money might matter. I think we need a big burst, right? Like maybe you have to crack the Fermenter. But Begemot is somewhat expensive. I believe 4, if not maybe.
It is. I believe it's 5. It is
maybe
very
5?
expensive.
Yeah.
But once it's down, Tuno's on 3 core damage right now. So 1 more will make it 3 core damage. That's 5 strength.
Yep.
1 more means you can break through basically anything on the corp side. And if you have a Palangi, then you can break through any 2 server. That is literally 2 credits to get in.
So see, we don't have that many options in hand. Just 2.
Oh,
We're charging
going
the
for the
powers.
install. Oh, and just a naked trash.
Yeah, not resing there. Jai understanding, or Tuno understanding, excuse me, that Powers That Be is exactly how Jai can snowball forward, scoring and putting the next agenda remote server.
I think Tuno might have been hoping that he would res something and hit the steel skin to save on stuff
If
and
it's
spend
not
some money.
worth resing that ice, you want to keep your money. Jai is going to need a fair few more credits to score out on the Hollow Man. It is relatively expensive. Now with Wage Workers, you can just score out 4 2s. It will end your turn, but Hollow Man gives you the ability to do anything.
Drawing here is not what you want to see. Tuno must be looking for money.
We have Moshings. We have Steelskin Scarrings. Drawing through our deck here. Now, Mystic Miami being a bit of a liability. It's actually hard to use those credits off of Mystic. I think the only thing that really pays for that is either the 1 Ashen, which is gone, or the Chistushka. We see a bit into its hand, Fermenters. And it looks like
Taking a single credit.
we're deciding whether the Wizard is going to, she's going to get the card, or whether we're just going to lose that 4 credit investment. It's gone.
Oh, that hurts.
Companions.
Let's see. Are we going to see another agenda scored?
Now, Jai, we'll see if there's a start to turn trigger again. We do know one of those cards underneath the Hollow Man is the Managram Skunkworks.
We know one is a Skunkworks, but the other could be an agenda. If it's an agenda, it can be scored here very easily. And if it is, the thing Jai most wants to see here, having that server, is the Ikawa project. Because if Jai scores that out, Jai is on game point.
Yes. So Jai, considering it, if he does overextend, scoring an Ikawa does cost 8 credits. There's a lot of money. And understanding that Jai still has to be able to res both ice on HQ to prevent a Chistushka from coming through. Now, if one of those cards is an Ablative Barrier, you have a bit more reach.
Install.
Because that can get a Spin Doctor back. In fact, if we haven't seen a Spin Doctor just yet, that's probably what that card down there is. Fully
operational for more money, I presume.
We might see a bit of draw at the start, just to keep a full hand. You want to keep a full hand, just so if Sabotage comes through, you can say, I'm going to give you these cards, not the unknown cards.
Or potentially even looking for another agenda if that's not an agenda.
I think it might not be, unless Jai's holding us. Tranquility, Mavirus, the other options here.
It's definitely something that you just want to see. You want to see, okay, this isn't on Tuno's side, you want to see, this isn't an agenda. I have another turn to keep sabotaging, to keep applying pressure. I'm not going to lose. Because it's such a clock deck, it's such a, I'm whittling you down, you want to, every single turn matters so much.
I think Jai might be well served if we have a Mavirus on the table. After the Fermenter hits 3, Jai might want to consider purging to put Tuna back down to just 1 credit and the Ghost Tongue. We'll see here, we've done 1 install so far, 1 operation, so Wage Workers isn't going to work today.
Somewhere in that deck is 1 Mavirus. We can
I think he's holding it. I think that was in his hand. I saw a bit of red. Oh, Jai keeping his cards close enough to his hand. We can't peep it on the camera. But we'll see where the upgrades go down. That's an HQ upgrade. I think that actually might be the Mavirus.
Absolutely. And
Christian Grid's the other option. To deal with Chistushka, you have to trash that first. Even if it's not, Tuno has to kind of respect that to be Chrysium.
Putting the Boundcar on R&D, fascinating.
Might just go for a single if Tuno has here.
Now, are we going to see the? We're going to see the
yeah.
Mavirus resed before the turn begins.
Tuno definitely wants it. That Fermenter not only does it enable the Simul chip.
Okay,
but we're checking. Nothing.
We see the Fermenter go. Okay, so the Mavirus then is still there, which does mean that all those Palangis, all those tricks can't be used here. Let's see. All right,
Tuno signing. Let's see that big old cat raindrops to start.
Raindrops right at the start.
Now, this forces a hard choice. We do know that Hagen will end the run as long as this can be rezzed, and it is a second Hagen rezzed for 4. Now, this is going to be 2 net damage, but that will be replaced by the card draw again. You do get power counters for every 17 that resolves.
This means Tuno's going to draw 4 cards off of raindrops.
Just 2? Because it will end. Oh, yeah. If you want to continue to go,
the run. You go into the second one.
Very good.
The second subroutine doesn't do anything because you don't have any other programs installed.
Yeah.
You get 4 counters. You just you draw 4 cards off of this. That's a gain 3 credits, draw 4 cards.
Yeah,
that's
specifically
incredible.
With the fermenter gone, you can deal with those Hagen subroutines no problem. Yeah. So we'll see if the card draw goes off here. A fantastic play. Just looking again, we have the credits for the Begamot. That's a nice 4 cards here.
It's definitely. I think that's definitely the sort of thing you wanted to see. Especially, you really didn't want to see the Mavirus pop there. Oh.
I think off camera we might have a judge interaction. It looks like things are going okay here. Huge hand of cards there. It has a lot of options. I can't tell too much of what's available there. It looks like we have running hot here. Just to put some pressure on for Jai would be great. Yeah, Ghost Tongue on the outer right. See another Banhar. Not very necessary at this point, of course. But we'll see if Tuno's getting it. It's been a couple turns that the sabotage hasn't mattered. Essa's had a blank text box for a couple turns, and Jai is at the point where just losing cards from the top of R&D can be disastrous. Now, I do think there's a chance there's a Spin Doctor there in the bottom left corner, but Moshing is going to start the party. Get rid of a Moshing and some redundant other cards. This is draw 3, gain 3. Tuno, it does not have what it needs.
It's still drawing.
It's drawn so much this turn. We're looking for that Begamot. It is a fine turn here for the Simul chip. If we want to get something in, I think we do have a running hot in hand if it just wants to extend that turn. First Jastushka's full arts that I think we've seen so far. Now that won't connect HQ. We have no breakers, and we're expecting at least a Chrism Grid, if not an equally powerful bluff. Now, I do want to say also the timer on the top of the round is probably inaccurate. I imagine the Judge Call did provide an extension. And there we go, running hot.
Let's see what we lose with a running hot.
So this will be 1 core damage. Hand size is getting a bit squeezed, but Jai will have to sabotage 2 here. A lot of options. I'm not sure Tuno has anything disastrous.
Losing
That's a labor rights.
You have 1 more, so you can shuffle the labor rights back in with the other labor rights. It's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah, it's likely this game might just even conclude before you get to the recursion loop. But we'll see what Jai decides here. It looks like it has to just be 2 from hand. Maybe suggesting there's no Spin Doctor on the table, but wanting to keep it safe here. Now, some great ESA players like Tuno will send it HQ if it makes sense. This board state's not the case, but when you see 2 cards leaving HQ, sometimes that does attract attention because those cards that are not hitting the bin are probably agendas. Tuno thinking, enough clicks there. That's a pinhole threading. The Hollow Man is probably what you want, but the cool bluff here is touching what might be a Spin Doctor, and it is just a Rashida. Tuno making the call. Sometimes you get that 2-for-1 where the Spin Doctor gets resin popped, but getting down to Rashida there is not, it definitely feels good, but not the most important thing when the Hollow Man there still can score out, but I'm imagining it's betting that there might be a Spin Doctor to make the hard call on. Wage Workers, Holloman, we can score at just about anything in our motion, but that card's been there for a turn.
Looks like there's a Dirty Laundry in hand. And there is a Palangi in hand, although that isn't that useful with the...
We still need the 1 Begamot. There's only 1 Begamot. I don't think we've seen it yet, the big cat.
We have not seen it.
If it's just in the bottom 5 cards, that's really unfortunate when that's the only breaker besides Buzzsaw. Besides the Buzzsaw, and there's 1 Botulus.
And Buzzsaw, I mean, the current ice on the board, Buzzsaw can't
it's not
really
do that
much with anything.
Now. Second
Another
pinhole
threading. That can take care of the...
That's going for the Holloman there. Jai losing a very strong win condition. Now, you can still score out on their remote server if it's a 4-2. The 3-2s, if we're looking at it, do we have the Vitruviuses? We do. So you can still get a counter. And throwing out Chastushka saying HQ 2 ice and maybe Chrism Grid is a bit too much for that poetic punching.
It does mean that you can't install well, if it's a 3-2, you could install a Powers That Be and then advance it. But if it's a 4-2, you can't install a Powers That Be and do that, which does mean you can't recur stuff from the bin. You can't get the Hollow Man back.
Now, Jai's on 2 Biotic. Obviously very expensive, but there's some points in time where getting that Powers That Be to push you forward, returning Rashida kind of refunds the investment of the Biotic labor. R&D can actually be that many more cards to Tuno if it just does sabotage turn after turn. And Jai just drawing as a start here. Is that 2 draws?
That's 2 draws.
Trying to get a full hand. 3 draws for Wage Workers. You don't often see that. We're definitely going to see an ace install at a minimum. 2 Spin Doctors still unaccounted for. And that card in their remote server on top of what we know to be a Managarm has been there for 2 turns. Whether it's the second Hollow Man or whether it's just a Tranquility hanging out.
Installing with an upgrade. And that server can be gotten into with the
the Banhar.
Yeah, the Banhar.
It was pressured a couple turns ago, but Jai didn't opt to res. It looks like we might see that same interaction now.
I think I saw I believe earlier I saw a Raindrops cuts. Oh, going for the labor rights.
This will rip 3 off the top of the deck. We still hit a Steel Skin or Strike Fund. They'll fire. It looks like 1 Strike Fund's not too bad. And now you can pick 3 cards and shuffle them back into your deck, and you finish that off by drawing 1. This is a champ design card from a while ago.
Going for the labor rights just to make sure that you don't lose everything. And the Ashen
we're going for the
Epilogue.
loop. Playing the long
wow.
game here. So not going for the pressure, but going for all these options. Again, a bit of sabotage, a bit of recursion. It's 4 cards for the Ashen Epilogue if you want to put all that deck back, but we need to find the Begamot. Removing 3 non-Begamot cards, adding 3 Begamot cards, at least you're drawing 1.
Yep.
We need to find that cat.
Technically, for the cat, this draws 4 cards because you have the Simul chip down and there is the Palangi in hand. If you needed to,
You can
if you,
do the
if you
shuffle,
saw
yeah.
it in the archives, you could just throw it there and then Simul chip it back as fast as possible. So this looks at 4 cards to try and do that with.
Tuno,
See?
finding out the top
There's
Palangi's
the
coming
Palangi.
down.
There it is.
This does allow you to make things into different subtypes. So if you find a code gate, it's a barrier, and the cat can waltz through here. We're going to be at 5 core damage after the Begamot comes down.
We do know that's probably a Mavirus on HQ, so that can at any moment be turned into nothing.
Yeah, I think there has to be a Mavirus somewhere. Like the Reed is maybe Mana Garment R&D, but the Mavirus, the Chrysium, those are very good options both for HQ. And still 2 upgrades in each of these servers. We haven't seen a single Tranquility. We know 1's a Mana Garm. Jai taking a peek here again. You can always ask your opponent to look through the discard, count their cards, see what you're playing around. Obviously, the Begamot's the big thing that hasn't made its entrance just yet. But Tuno might still pressure the remote.
One of the things about Simulchip is you can't use Simulchip unless you have a program in your bin to begin with. Correct?
Yeah, N6.
So
N6 can get you. The no change of game state.
So if Tuno puts down the Begemot and the Palangi gets Mavirus, oh,
A Spin Doctor came from the remote server. It looks like it was a run on the remote. Spin Doctor just being res, draw 2. And now shuffling back. That's the second Spin Doctor removing from game.
oh wow.
Jai might have something to put back, putting in there the Holoman and the fully operational. Now, this list is on 2 Holomans. Sometimes you want to keep one in the bin to give some teeth to the Blative, but there's only 1 more Spin Doctor, and that deck is looking relatively
Deck is
thin.
so small. There has to be agendas in hand. At this point.
Tranquility Home Grade from this year's, I believe, one of the kits. So now we have few cards in R&D offering the cut, of course, but there's only 1 more Spin Doctor.
I
2
believe
face-up
there
cards
is a
going
running
back.
hot in hand.
Yeah,
If
it
that's
does look like a running hot.
This is a great spot to potentially, well, you don't know what you want to lose. If you are in danger of losing something, it's a dangerous thing. But if you can play the running hot, not going to play it. Playing the running hot potentially allows you to even just use it as a diesel. Just a bad diesel.
Tuno drawing
See?
up there. I think it only has 2 or 3 options in hand. 4 core damage in. Jai top decking here after the shuffle. Doing a card count here. This is really important to understand how many turns Jai has left. And at this point in the game, there's only maybe a dozen cards left in R&D. We've only seen 3 agendas.
So there has to be...
HQ has
to
3
be
cards,
flooded.
3
It has
agendas in
to
it
be
for
flooded
sure.
at this point. There might be an agenda. We still haven't seen what's in the server with the remote.
No, it might just be an agenda cooking for a while, and then Jai doesn't feel like he has a moment. Tranquility Home Grid. I reckon we're going to see credits here, but Jai can build a 2-ice remote server. It's only a matter of time before Tuno does find the Begamot to eventually get in.
We could see a fast advance here with a Biotic, potentially,
Yes.
just to get it out.
Yeah.
There's the Biotic.
A Biotic and the Wage Workers give you some good options. Luminal is the good
Triple
score
advance.
here, but it may either be Vitruvius
Getting a
with
4th advance
counter
with the Wage Worker.
or an off-rolled. Gain
There's
7.
an off-rolled. All right, that puts you at 4. Now, there isn't a way... Now, presumably, there isn't a way it would win here.
This turn?
This next turn for Jai.
Jai could, at most, if there is a Holoman on the table,
Yeah, if there's
potentially win.
If there's a Hollow Man on the table, and if there's a...
Credits willing, and the Wage Worker survives.
Yeah, there is potentially a way, but it is very, very unlikely.
It's expensive, but if that can line up, you need the Ikoa, you need the Biotic, you need enough credits, and the Wage Workers must stand. Tuno finally putting Bandhar on HQ. This might mean that the cat is here, but understanding again, we've only seen 4 agendas. There must be something in hand. Now, Tuno's pressure here this turn. Checking. It's a remote server. We know one of the cards in there is a Mana Garm. Is the other a Holoman or just an agenda? Even if that's a 5-3, if the last Ico has been in the remote server, Jai can just Biotic and quad advance with Wage Workers? No, that doesn't work.
I'm not sure. There is also the possibility. There is also a possibility that one of those upgrades on HQ or R&D could just be
Yes,
a Hollow Man
Hollow Man
just
slide.
sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
Sometimes you bluff out a Hollow Man somewhere, and then on your turn you res it, move it to the right server. Because Hollow Man moves at the beginning of your turn, you can move it to anywhere you want. Putting it on the Wage Workers, looking to say,
Yes.
okay, you might have a way to do this, and I'm going to make sure you can. Which makes sense.
There's the
Begemot.
Begemot.
Okay, so now this does mean that potentially you can get into any server. However, losing labor rights probably fine. You still have the Ashen Epilogue.
Yeah, Begamot's going to break everything now for 1 credit. Now, all the
Unless
barriers,
you
of
lose
course,
everything with the virus,
yes.
you can't use the simul chip right now because I don't think there's another program.
There's a buzzsaw. I think we
There
saw
is
buzzsaw
we
early.
did see the buzzsaw.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tuno can just flicker the buzzsaw to get around that. So Tuno can get into any server with 2 ice right now.
At least once, yes. So the Wage Workers is being the target here again. I do think, yeah, Jai has Bionic Labor, and there is an Ikoa just in that mostly defended remote server. Can actually score next turn with Biotic, and then Wage Workers to do 5 advancements, if I'm not mistaken. So Tuno is respecting it. It is just taking down the Wage Workers here. It is expensive at 4, but Jai not opting to res into what's going to be broken for maybe only 1 credit. We've only seen 1 ablative so far.
Now, if that's like the Chrysium grid on HQ, that is 5 to trash.
It's a lot of money. And there's no cards in this deck, I think, that make trashing cheaper.
You
But
need-
whether it's the Chestushkas, at this point, I don't even think Tuno wants a Chestushka. Tuno just needs to make a run HQ. There's definitely agendas in hand.
Tuno just wants to see what's in HQ. Tuno wants to see anywhere could potentially win you the game. Looking at R&D could win you the game. Anywhere you check at this point could be the instant game.
Jai just removed his archives from the game? Where did it go? It's passed off camera. I think someone's looking through it.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly why, but we did have a sabotage off the Begamot, a pile of cards there, passing it back to Jai. Now, without the Wage Workers here, Jai has 1 more Biotic Labor in the deck. We haven't mentioned Vitruvius. Vitruvius with a counter is a really strong thing against Essa, and it just has not come up. We haven't seen a single Project Vitruvius just yet.
Well, we've seen... No, we haven't seen it. It was a
Yeah,
liminal.
we haven't.
So we've seen 9 points right now out of a total of 20.
Yeah.
So
Not even half. And
Yeah.
there's not a lot of cards in
not
R&D
even
left.
half of them.
Jai's considering, you see how he's touching, he's manipulating his remote servers, trying to figure out what's the next thing he's going to push here. Needs to understand he can close out the game, maybe he has a small window, but you're probably going to need something like 4 ice, and none of them can be barriers. In terms of the hard end that runs in this deck, they're not barriers. It is just the awkwardness that Drafter can cause some problems, but Gatekeeper's the one thing left. At 6 strength, you still get through with Begamot Palangi, and you can do Palangi twice a turn, as long as a simul chip, but of course the virus might interrupt that, so it's hard to build a server.
In order to actually completely keep Tuno out, there has to be a server with 3 ice and none of them can be barriers.
Yes.
That is the
You need
only thing that can actually keep it out right
a
now.
Mavirus, Managarm too at this point, Running Hot might still be in Tuno's hands, so getting clicks extra can be a nice surprise sometimes. But Jai here needs to figure out how to get a 5-3. Scoring at 2-4-2s can be difficult. Install on top of that Tranquility Gain 2. It's a last Spin Doctor, just getting more cards in hand. R&D must only be about 9 or so cards. Again, we've been drawing a lot this game, as you often want to do in Ace group. With Tuno putting on the pressure here again.
With no Wage Workers on the board, and that action taken.
There's only 1 Wage Workers in this list as well. Oh no, sorry, I'm looking at Tuno's list. There's multiple Wage Workers. There's usually 2, right? Yeah, there's 2. So there's 1 more somewhere, 1 more Nico as well, representing things that go on remote servers. Jai thinking here, it's really hard. We get that ice outermost on that tall server here. Asking, I think, for a take back. I don't think anything changes here. You can definitely do that. Now it comes down to the ablative. Tuno has to be careful. If Tuno runs too far into a turn, you can ablative to get back that Holloman onto a table if there's a Holloman in Archives or at HQ, and that can set you up for some sort of fast events, or specifically the Wage Workers coming back if you run last click. That is maybe a problem.
Jai is puzzling over all possible options here.
Yes. So his fast advance from hand options are, it's difficult for me to do the math quickly, but there are convoluted options that involve both Biotic Labor, Holloman, and having a lot of money. Yes. You can actually, in some ways, thread into fast events of 5-3.
Using the Spin Doctor. That's the 3rd Spin Doctor. Getting a Biotic.
Jai's going for the double Biotic land. I think you have a line to fast events out with double Biotic Holloman 5-3. It's very expensive, but if you win the game, it doesn't matter. So Jai needs to just assemble this sort of Exodia, because I do not think the table is safe. So Jai has to do a good job keeping Tuno busy, checking their remote server, keeping some things getting trashed, while having all these cards dodge sabotage and be able to do that fast advance combo.
Right, and this puts you in a terrible place, because if you get sabotage, if there's a Running Hot in hand, that's 2 sabotage, and Tuno gets so many actually things. Okay, this could be game right here. This
I'm not
all
sure if
could
this
be a
face
bluff.
downs. I think Tuno's just checking. I don't think this is a run just yet.
Okay.
Tuno checking here again. Our timer has hit 0. There's probably a bit more time in the round. Excuse me, there was obviously a very important judge call, so this time extension is going to be given to this table, as it usually is for things like this. So we're not exactly sure. Again, if time is called, the active player finishes their turn. Their opponent gets 1 more turn as well.
Right now, Tuno would win because it has 5 points opposed to Jai's 4.
And very notably, when it comes to double elimination brackets, if it does get to a tie on points and time is called and the extra turn resolves, the higher the highest seed from the bracket at the start of the double elimination will take it.
I don't think there's no way for that to happen though at this point.
No,
because because we're at 5 and 4 points, Jai doesn't have a 1-point agenda.
Fully operational. I think this is the middle of Jai's turn. Just checking, making sure everything is good. Something happened there, but that was not passed back to Tuno's turn. Fully operational with 2 servers means we can do something 3 times. Starting there with draw 2. After we put the biotic labors back in, Jai's trying to, again, build this sort of fast advance combo. Might not be confident about the table. Looks like we're not sure if we paid 1 for that operation. Jai interacting with the credits, getting a mid-full more of dollars. We're at about 18, give or take. Biotic. Is this tempo biotic? What's going on?
Is there going to be maybe a Vitruvius scored out of hand? Biotic.
Second biotic? Do we have it here? Do we have everything we need? Again, if we want to score out of 5-3 here, we have 2 biotics. If they can get a wage workers on the table, we have to do the full combo here. We have still 8 credits left. That's enough for Holloman into a 5-3. I think Jai might have exactly what he needs. That's 6 points, Jai.
That's only 6 points. Jai, that's only 6 points.
I don't have Holloman anymore.
Oh, Ikoa. Biotic, 3 advance. He can 5 advance. It was Ikoa the whole time.
Oh, that's so rough.
It was on the Ikoa on the table.
Oh,
he got
had the
back
Ikoa the
in.
entire time.
He got the biotic back in. He needed the double biotic. Ikoa is on the table on top of a Managarm. Tuno there saying not getting the Begamud until it came down. A bit too late. Only 1 turn to get the pressure off.
That was such a close game. Oh.
Well played to both players.
Well played to both. Amazing game, yeah.
Jai, after almost getting the loss, unfortunately, for the Spin Doctor interaction, after a hard judge call there, is able to claw that back. Things were not looking great, but that cat just not showing up to the party in time.
Yep.
I think if that showed up just 5 turns earlier, what a different game.
Yep.
Well played to both players. Again, this is double elimination, so Tuno, it's only its first loss in the bracket, so it'll be going down to the lower bracket. Still going to be playing some fantastic Netrunner, while Jai will be still in the upper bracket. Hasn't lost a game today. It is the first game that he's played today, but he's obviously had a killer weekend so far. But he's that's some great Netrunner we have in front of us. What a round 1.
Yeah, God, that was intense.
That was wild. Yeah, fantastic. Well played to both players. Just, it's so nice to see like world-class play on these top tables to make some exciting games. Respecting the open, I like open deckless play so much.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun to be able to look at things and try and figure out what tools they have, especially because you don't always know what they could do. We were sitting here going, well, I think you could do it with the biotics.
Yes.
I think you can figure it out.
Yeah, they know the lines a bit more. They're definitely tracking it on doing the math of how many clicks and how many credits and what it costs, but there's some wild lines there. Not a fast advance of 5-3 and never advance 5-3. Definitely caught us by surprise, but Jai has been working on that one for a long time.
It's beautiful to see.
Now that's only round 1. Oh, I'm not sure how many rounds exactly it is, but we're going to have a full day.
It's going to be 8 rounds, possibly a 9th round if we run it back.
So we have a lot more great Netrunner in front of you. My name is Andrej for the Metropolitan Grid. I go by he, him.
I'm Juniper, she, her. I'll be back in a bit to talk about the winners of the previous round, show off the bracket, and then we'll go right into round 2.
Thanks so much for watching. This is World Championship 2024 in San Francisco.
Hello and welcome back to the Netrunner 2024 World Championship. We have some breaking news. I'm back with Juniper here.
Yep, the previous round, we thought that Jai had won because Jai showed the score of the double biotic into the score, but from what it looks like happened, Tuno had already won on time, and we didn't get the time called because of the long judge delay. So it looks like Tuno actually won the game, and that was just Jai showing off what Jai could have done, what he could have done to win. So I think Tuno won that game.
Yeah, it is certainly looking like that. It's looking like that in the tournament standings. We are going to come back and verify that with the next round. just to make sure everybody is well aware. But it does look like the initial call on the table on stream may have been incorrect. We'll get that information for you coming up, and we'll let you know along with coverage of the next game. Anything else to say there, Juniper?
Oh, congrats to Tuno. Congratulations. Yeah, it was a beautiful game.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be right back with you.